19 for the low. On Thursday, sunny and cold, 32. Thursday night, lots of clouds. Some light snow and snow flurries late Thursday night, 26. I don't think it's a big deal. Friday, partly sunny and 42. But gusty winds from the northwest will drop our temperatures in the afternoon. Saturday, partly sunny, 29. Sunday, sunny and 26. From the Saliga Heating and Cooling Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Dave Murray on 104.1 FM. KMOX.
Right now, we've got some clouds. It's 33. The feels like it's 16, and that's in large part because winds are out of the north-northwest at 16 miles per hour, but the gusts are up to 31 miles per hour. Keep those hands on the steering wheel on the highway. I'm Michael Calhoun, KMOX News.
Traffic from the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
Well, 55 is getting better, but it's still jammed. This traffic reports service of Overhead Door Company of St. Louis. It's jammed approaching Arsenal down to Bates. It's due to an earlier stall we had past Loughborough, but after that, you're good to go. Westbound 44, let's call it Jefferson out through Hampton. Just a lot of stop-and-go pockets. Westbound 64, midway between Grand and Boyles, bumper to bumper to Hampton, slow to McCausland. After that, it's slow west of Clarkson to Topgolf and at 364 out to Highway 70. Southbound 170, that's a solid jam from Delmar down to 64. Eastbound 64, McKnight to Big Bend's on the brakes. Northbound 170 from Natural Bridge up to Airport Road's heavy. Westbound 70, Riverview through Jennings Station is slow. 170 to the Rock Road, 270 out to the Blanchette Bridge, through Highway K and A to Z in Wentzville. South 270 bogs down, south of 364 all the way down to Doherty Ferry, then just a little slow approaching Gravois. Overhead Door Company of St. Louis is hiring residential garage door technicians and installers. Apply today and get a call today. Hiring bonus up to $4,000. Benefits include health, dental, vision, and pension. Apply today at overheaddoorsstlouis.com. I'm Roger Brand in the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
News, traffic, and the latest from the world of sports. This is Rush Hour Sports on 104.1 FM KMOX.
Guys, welcome to Wednesday on Rush Hour Sports. Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you, hanging out, talking ball. And I think we're just hot stoving it today, Matt.
All right, let's do it.
I don't know if that's an actual term, but I'm making it a term. We are hot stoving it for the next hour.
It is a term. At KMOX, the home of the Cardinals, with us two guys who don't do much else other than baseball, we're hot stoving it. It's a word.
The next couple of nights, we'll do a little more on the NFL playoffs. And then, of course, on Monday, we'll talk more about the national championship game. And that'll be all three of us on Friday and Monday with Bernie joining the two of us. So we got more stuff coming. And then, I'm going to say this out of the gate. And I've said it a few times. I just want to say it again. I would love to talk more about the Blues. They just don't give us anything to talk about.
I mean, they played well last night. But
They
it's
did.
Just
but then what's
single
next?
Game
Three more games of crap?
Yeah. Right. Like single game performances are not larger talking points.
No. And I really enjoy hockey talk. It's just hard with a team that doesn't show up on a lot of days. And I'm just going by what the coach says when it comes to effort and, grit and all that kind of stuff. And it's just really difficult to talk about a team when it's kind of the same movie over and over again with the exception here and there like last night.
Well, no, that's actually I would actually push back on that, Kevin. What they did last night, they do like often enough. It's like, oh, okay, see, this was what it could be, and then it just goes back into the ditch or whatever.
All right, so we're hot stoving it. Obviously, still have some things to wade through after the Arenado trade. I want to talk about the offense a little bit later on as it stands now, because we have to acknowledge that it may not look on opening day the way that it does now. I mean, Donovan's still here for now. We can talk. I think we'll talk about it without him because we know what he is. I don't think it's really a mystery. If he's here, we know what to expect from him. But we'll get into the offense a little bit later on and maybe a few other things. But I got a message last night on Twitter, and it wasn't a fight. I want to be clear. This was not like a mean thing or anything like that. But I had a guy message me, Matt, and was essentially implying that it's unacceptable for the Cardinals to ever rebuild because they never rebuild. The Cardinals don't rebuild. And for 20, 25 years, that was true. From the year 2000 on, maybe from La Russa on, right? 95, 96 on. It wasn't about a rebuild. It was about, from that point, it was just building when he got there. But it took a while to get to the point where you were the MV3 team. And then, from that point, though, from 2000 on, they until recently, they were a competitive team, so they weren't rebuilding. But the way he put it was, I've been a fan for 40 years, and this team doesn't rebuild. And I'm like, did you miss the 90s? Because from 1988 to 1999, the Cardinals had 7 losing seasons during that time. They've only had 4 since the year 2000. And I know that 3 of them are in a row, which is why they're rebuilding, because you're stuck.
And one of those years wasn't. They were above 500 in one of those last 3 years. So it's not. But it's funny you brought this up, because I've been thinking about it. Because I do agree with you, Kevin, that basically every team at some point goes through some version of this. I can talk out of both sides of my mouth on this one and believe what I'm saying. Like I don't know if what I'm saying out of each side of my mouth actually conflict with each other, but they kind of feel like they do. So just hang tight with me for a second. Again, agree that all teams go through some version of this, but also there is an alternate reality where the Cardinals don't lose their way. The Cardinals don't get passed up by almost every other organization in baseball when it comes to data and technology and instruction and development and all these things. And what is going on right now is not taking place right now. I mean, this is very much self-inflicted. That doesn't mean that it's not going to happen at some point in the future. So I think both things can be true, that there was a legitimate and actually common sense path that the Cardinals could have gone down to avoid this, but that also doesn't mean that it's just like the worst thing in the world and it never should ever happen to the Cardinals that they're going through some version of a rebuild.
Well, I mean, I would argue, I think you're right, by the way, but I would also argue that every team that ends up rebuilding is for the same reason, because the human beings in charge didn't choose the right paths. That's what leads to this, and that's what's normal. This is kind of my point, is that that's not unusual for human beings to lose track of a thing or get outplayed by other people or outpaced by other people in various things. I agree with you. It should never have happened. But it does happen. It happens in New York. It happens in Boston. It happens everywhere. And there's nothing about being the St. Louis Cardinals that makes you immune from things that are the result of human error.
No, there's not a birthright that goes along with it. I think the frustrating thing, and I've really been thinking about this more, Kevin. I think that you and me, we could have sat there for the last 10 years and identified the areas where the Cardinals weren't making the best decisions. And a lot of it was overshadowed by the fact that there's this guy named Yadier Molina who is in that clubhouse. And, man, he did a lot of things as a player that really impacted this team in a positive way. And some of that data that you generally have out of a computer was coming out of Molina somehow, some way. But you and I could have identified the things that the organization were getting passed by on by other teams. Yep. And they just kind of stood there. And I remember that night. I've talked about this a million times. Sorry to everybody who's sick of hearing me tell this. I remember that night at the winter meetings when John Mozeliak said, well, that's going to test our model. Well, yeah, it tested the model, and it tested it in a really bad way. And I think a lot of people could have sat there at that point and said, you know what, the model, you don't need to test the model. We know that this model is not going to get you where you want to go.
Yeah, I mean, I could go even further than you did and say that not only could we have done those things, we did say those things. I've been pounding on those things for 10 years, 8 years, both as a member of the Cardinals flagship and as a member of a station that was not part of the flagship. And it's not just me and you and I have done it. Obviously, Bernie has been doing that same thing for a long time. I think a lot of people who cover the team have talked about their lack of desire, their lack of willingness to go after power arms, to go after power bats, not just in the draft, but in free agency, in trades, and all of these things. So I think there are clearly those things that we all agree. We were looking at it and seeing, hey, this is an area you need to get better at because we're watching the other teams. And, I completely agree that it was, I don't want to say preventable, but you could have managed it better to the point where you didn't have to do a full reboot. But at the same time, we've seen historically in sports, not just baseball, but all sports. Front offices, coaches, managers, sometimes they get passed by. For a long time it works, and then all of a sudden it's not working anymore. And that's when it's time to make the change.
Every time they make a move, though, this offseason, I do think it harkens you back to last offseason, and you openly wonder, could this organization be 1 year further if they would have hit the gas a little bit on this rebuild?
Oh, I think you're right. That once you settled in on the runway plan, last year was a little bit too much of a half-assed idea, where we're trying to do two things at once. We want to give runway, but we also don't want to pull back on the idea of contending. And again, I understand why. It doesn't mean you should have done it. I understand you don't want to basically tell people we're not going to be good. You're still trying to sell tickets. I totally understand that. But you can't BS people. And what we got a lot of feedback on last year, and I think you and I even voiced this same thing, is the mixed messages. Sometimes it's runway and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's what we need to do to win today. Well, you got to pick a lane, and playing two lanes is only going to slow you down in both.
I would agree, and there has been no mixed message.
No.
Time says we will not concede anything for this season, and that is good. And again, people are talking about this being a 100-loss team. That was one of the narratives that was coming out yesterday.
I don't think so.
They're not that different from last year. Offensively, they've probably taken a little bit of a step back. Starting pitching, they've probably taken a step forward. Relief pitching, to be determined. This is not a 100-loss team, but this also probably is not. This is not a contending team at the same time.
No, there's a world where it could be a 100-loss team. Like you have a couple injuries and now you're really thin. But only two teams lost 100 games last year. It's not like that's a common thing. I think you're probably looking at somewhere in the 70s. And again, that's really vague. If I had to pick a number now for an over-under, I'd probably say my over-under is 75-ish. I know what's it in Vegas, 73.5, 74.5, depending on where you look. That feels about right. And it could go down a little. It could go up a little, but it's probably in that range.
Right. And if everything falls correctly, the ceiling for this team next year is the ceiling that they had this past year, that they kind of stick around in playoff contention and maybe pull Cincinnati Reds and find a way in. But that is the absolute extreme ceiling, which is not likely.
All right, we got a lot to do here on Rush Hour Sports. Matt Pauley and Kevin Wheeler. We've got a little more on not just the Arenado part of this, but on the contract subtractions and essentially how you're really getting yourself back down to zero. Because you're pretty close to this team having zero long-term commitments. And by that, I mean zero commitments beyond this year. What? How many contracts do you – I'll look it up during the break, but I don't know that you have anybody signed past this year now that Arenado's gone.
Yeah.
And I mean, you control people beyond this year.
Right.
You have arbitration rights. You have team control. But, I mean, you don't have a contract that is locked in beyond that. So we'll touch on all of that, and we'll continue the conversation coming up next here on Rush Hour Sports.
I know that hiring can be challenging. You sort through tons of resumes and you get too many so-so applicants. You're just waiting for someone to match your role perfectly. Well, now, there's a place where you can meet them fast. ZipRecruiter.
Need to hire right away. Start your search for strong candidates. The right fit awaits. Build your team. Build it sooner. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter.
Just head to ZipRecruiter.com/radio right now to try it for free. And you're on your way to meeting your match. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. So try it now. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Try it free.
This is the story of the one. As the purchasing manager at a manufacturing plant, she knows the only thing more important than having the right safety gear is having it there when you need it. That's why she partners with Grainger for auto reordering, so her team members can count on her to have cut-resistant gloves on hand, and each shift can run safely and efficiently. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
With the new IHOP value menu, $6 is all it takes to go to your happy plates, where stacks of pancakes with bacon and eggs are just $6 every day. French toast, sausage, and eggs are, you guessed it, $6. And fluffy omelets come with a side of pancakes and only cost $6. Go to your happy plates every day at IHOP. $7 in some locations. Available every day for a limited time at participating restaurants in the U.S. Hours may vary. No substitutions. Not valid with other discounts or promotions. Prices may vary.
KMOX, celebrating 100 years. Presented by Purina. Your pet, our passion. Now, a KMOX pioneer.
Few voices in KMOX history created more joy and laughter than Jack Carney. With his sharp wit, creative segments, and effortless storytelling, Carney turned the Jack Carney Show into one of the most beloved programs in St. Louis radio. His daily puns, long-form jokes, and playful exchanges kept listeners in their cars, sometimes long after they'd reached their destination.
This is the Saturday Morning Comedy Show, and I'm Jack Carney. Oh, I feel so good. You ever do that in the morning? Very rarely. Might be the mattress.
My bed has no mattress.
Well, then, no wonder you've got that funny waffle look on your tuchus there. You've been sleeping right on the spring.
Carney's warmth and spontaneity redefined morning radio, proving that great broadcasting could be smart, unpredictable, and irresistibly fun. Jack Carney, a KMOX pioneer.
This is Tom Ackerman for Ophthalmology Associates. You know, the doctors, or just the best doctors to see for your best vision in St. Louis. 314-966-5000, the doctors. They've treated more than 250 doctors. That's more than any other practice. Dr. Greg Birdie, Dr. Ranjan Malhotra, Dr. Robert Bersati, Dr. Andy Royer. 314-966-5000 is their phone number. 314-966-5000. Dr. Birdie, Dr. Malhotra are cornea surgeons and experts in diagnosis and treatment of diseases of the eye, dry eye, allergy eye, cataracts, macular degeneration, glaucoma, LASIK surgery. The Doctors of Ophthalmology Associates, experts. Call for an appointment today, 314-966-5000, or visit them online, youridoc.com, 12990 Manchester Road, quarter mile west of 270. 314-966-5000 or youridoc.com.
Hey, Cardinal Cowboy here. Who would have thought a car crash would have led to charities, TV shows, and cheering with the best fans in the world? I'm thankful for every day. And so are my friends at Renner Garage Door. They've been turning garage doors from zero to hero since 1966. With help from trusted brands like Delden, Amar, and LiftMaster, honest family-style service you can count on. So giddy up and get your free repair or replacement quote today. Giddy up!
RENNER, RENNER.
Nothing makes a gathering great like Eggland's Best Eggs. They're just so delicious with better nutrition, too. For us, it's eggs any style, as long as they're the best. Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
Traffic from the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
Well, we've got heavy traffic westbound 70 Riverview out through Jennings Station. It's bogged down from the airport all the way to the Blanchette Bridge. There's more heavy traffic TR Hughes through Highway K. Westbound Highway 64, you're backed up midway between, well, I'll say approaching Boyle, but it's bumper to bumper all the way out through to about Big Bend. It's a little busy approaching Ballas, west of Clarkson to Topgolf. 364 out to 70, and northbound 61 has a jam approaching Highway P midway up to W. Looks like there was an incident there. Southbound 170 backs up Delmar to 64, south 270, south of 364 to Doherty. Ferry is slow, and then through Tesson Ferry northbound approaching 64 up to Olive is pretty busy. Northbound 170, Rock Road up to Airport Road's heavy. Southbound 55, Arsenal down through Bates, you've got delays. Westbound 44 from 55 all the way out through Hampton is slow, and Laclede Station to Elm. I'm Roger Brand at the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
This is Rush Hour Sports on 104.1 FM KMOX.
All right, Rush Hour Sports on KMOX. Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you here, talking baseball till the top of the hour. And then, Matt, you have a little bit of a short sports open line leading into the Billikens tonight.
Yeah, I'll go to about 6:45, and then Rammer and Earl will take over from there. Bernie Miklasz will join us for a weekly conversation at about 6:20.
Awesome. Well, speaking of Bernie, and I'm sure you guys will get into this a little bit, Lauren's our regular. Hi, Lauren. Said she just watched Bernie's video about the clean slate, which is, if you missed it, it's essentially talking about how he's cleared off all the big salaries, all the salaries of older players. Even though you're still paying some of it, None of it is on your books beyond next year because all of those contracts wrap up next year. And on the current roster, I did look this up during the break. You don't have a single commitment beyond this season. Now, you because you can decline any of the others, right? If you have a player's contractual rights, arbitration rights, or just team control, it's up to you whether they're back or not. They do not have any guaranteed contracts beyond this year, and that's a good place for a rebuilding team to be. Because now I would assume that this year and next year, you're not going to see a big push into payroll because you're still paying these other contracts and you're still figuring out what's going to happen with the local TV deal and what your revenue is going to be there. But I would say, once you're clear of all that, you're pretty much back to being able to do what you need to, whether that's, giving a long-term contract to guys like J.J. Weatherholt, or even Matthew Liberatore, who doesn't have that many years of team control now. He's only got a couple more years left. So you'll have some money to do those types of things or to add from outside in the very near future.
I actually, and I don't want this to happen because I'm a fan of Matthew Liberatore, but if the Hunter Dobbins and the Richard Fitz are really good and Dustin May does a nice job, and then all of a sudden midway through the season you've got Quinn Matthews and Liam Doyle pushing for a big league opportunity.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked if this team at that point made the decision to maybe move on from a Liberatore because, as you mentioned, those numbers of years of club control are starting to come down. It's kind of the conversation we have about Brendan Donovan, and if Libby has a really good start to the season, holy moly, he could be worth a ton in the trade market.
So I think he's got 3 years. He's got 26, 27, 28 under control. According to this, it says he's not a free agent until 2030. So actually, it's 4 years of team control. But I don't know that it is. I'm not sure that it is.
I mean, free agent in
this was his
2030 season or before the 2030 off season.
Yeah.
It has to be 3 more years and then going into 2030. So I mean, he's probably around for a while, and he's a guy that you've developed. I'm just saying, if all of a sudden they are swimming in the riches of starting pitching, well, and they need to move on from somebody, that's a dude who's got the least amount of control of all these controllable type guys who maybe you think about moving. That's the only point I'm trying to make.
Sure, and he's making a little bit more money this year with ARB, now that it's settled, now that they agreed, and that's going to keep going up, and you'll see. Before long, that's the question about guys like Lars Nootbaar. Newt only has 1 more year of team control. So if he were healthy, I think he'd be traded this offseason. And he may still be, but I think it's less likely until he proves his health. And that's why Donovan is on the block, because he's only got 1 more year after this year. And that's why you're looking to kind of gain team control, gain control of your payroll so that you can now then be aggressive. And yet, that aggressiveness might be keeping your guys around, right? Hey, we love Mason Wynn. Let's give Mason Wynn a long-term contract instead of going through arbitration year to year to year, right? Let's do that same thing with JJ. You see teams do this all the time where they give out a contract to a player before he ever plays in the major leagues. That gives you the flexibility to do those things, and that's how you start to build a roster in this kind of market where you can have star players and then still add to it. And to look at what I'm talking about, look at what the Braves have done. Look what the Braves did with Ronald Acuna's contract, with Ozzie Albies, with Austin Riley. They went through and they signed all those guys when they were super young. And while they do get expensive, they are never top of the market during their contract. They're always going to be market-friendly contracts when you lock young guys up like that. They just need to be good.
Yeah.
You need to be right.
And you have to be right most of the time.
Right.
John Singleton took so much grief from Players Association when he signed that deal with the Astros all those years ago, and then he never, that was the greatest financial decision he ever made in his life because due to some off-field stuff and some other things, he never reached his potential. But you know what? The Houston Astros, they were also okay. It did not hinder them from a high level of competitiveness. So you can miss. It's okay to miss. Guess what? Some of these guys that Hein Bloom has acquired in some of these trades, they're not all getting to the big leagues.
No, they're not.
They're not all going to be major contributors. It's okay to miss. You just need to hit more often than you miss, or have so many opportunities that you hit just a few times and you're good.
Yeah, and when if you miss on like the Singleton money, which was like $2 million a year for whatever. That's no big deal. If you're missing more on like the Christian Campbell money, where it's $7.5 million a year for 7 years, it feels a little worse. But even that, right. I mean, that's a bench player in modern baseball. That's not an everyday player.
Yeah, and you know what? To like apply this to a team elsewhere in the division, the Brewers did that to a certain extent with Jackson Chourio.
Yeah. Boy, they paid him too.
That was a can't miss.
Right.
If Chourio falls off a cliff tomorrow, that hampers the Brewers in a major way for a very, very long time.
All right, coming up next, we're going to dive into the Cardinals' offense as it stands now, but we're going to do it with the idea that Donovan won't be here for two reasons. One, because he may not be. Two, because even if he is here, we know what to count on. I don't think there's a lot of variation. If he's healthy, he's going to be what you normally see from him. He'll be an above-average offensive player. We'll get into the offense as it stands coming up next here on KMOX.
Glover here for my friends at Cantor Injury Law. Cantor is local, and we're here doing the work every day. We're right here in St. Louis, and we're ready to fight for you. CantorInjuryLaw.com or call 314-628-9999.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be solely based on advertisements.
So, President Trump seems to be turning.
At 5:30, the news is sponsored by Michael's Flooring Outlet, the flooring experts, michaelsflooringoutlet.com. It is 32 degrees, and we stand at 16 as the feels like downtown at the Arch. President Trump is now suggesting that military action in Iran might not be necessary. The president has repeatedly said he would be ready to step in if Iran started executing anti-government protesters. The president now says those executions have been called off. Meanwhile, the U.S. has advised some personnel at a military base in Qatar to evacuate. CBS's Charlie D'Agata.
There are certainly rising tensions. There's been a NOTAM, which is a notice to airmen around Iran not to fly over those areas in the next coming hours because of the increased risk. There's been a lot of activity around Al Udeid. So President Trump seems to be turning the temperature down, but everybody's on standby, including us, for what the United States might be planning.
Cori Bush's husband is on trial this week, accused of fraudulently taking tens of thousands of dollars in pandemic relief loans. What kind of a chance does his defense have?
Many of the pandemic fraud cases over the last half-decade have been open and shut. Courtney Merritt's attorney, Justin Gelfand, argues this case is purely political and explains why it's different from many of the other pandemic fraud cases.
Courtney Merritt ran a real, legitimate moving company. Real customers, real employees, real moves.
Gelfand argues the loans were intended to go to businesses like Merritt's, which were hard hit during the pandemic shutdown. He says Bush is on their witness list, but would not commit to her testifying in her husband's defense. Sean Malone, KMOX News.
The devastating May tornado highlighted issues with the City Emergency Management Agency. The new commissioner of SEMA, former firefighter Greg Favor, has been busy these past few weeks. The biggest issue, he says, is staffing. SEMA has 6 positions. Only 3 of them are filled.
Right-sized for the city of St. Louis, looks about 10 to 12-ish at minimum.
He says other cities our size may have as many as 18 people in that department, which allows for more planning and outreach. Amidst a hot start to the season, could SLU join a new conference? A joint letter from Senator Eric Schmidt and Ohio Senator John Husted are pitching the Big East to grant membership to St. Louis University and the University of Dayton. Schmidt, a SLU alum, argues the school shares the values of the Big East and would give the conference access to one of the 25 largest media markets in the country. In a statement to KMOX, SLU Athletic Director Chris May says while conference realignment is always on the radar, quote, we are a proud member of the Atlantic 10 Conference and remain focused on winning A10 championships. From the Saliga Heating and Cooling Weather Desk, for tonight, a clear sky and a cold night, low 18 degrees. For tomorrow, we'll start off with some sun, but then increasing clouds take over, high temperature 34 degrees. For Thursday night, could have some light snow and flurries, should be an inch or less, and a low of 26. Friday's high, 42. Right now, it's 32, feels like 16. We've got winds out of the north-northwest at 15, gusting up to 30 miles per hour. I'm Michael Calhoun, KMOX News.
Pizza's here. Oh, great. I'd love some, but I'm worried about my stomach issues.
If you're worried about having diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools, it may not just be stomach issues. It could be a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Hey, I'm Mike Slater. My dad passed away at the age of 63. It's out of nowhere. Had a stroke. Super hard, obviously, for
for the whole family, but my dad had life insurance. This is why I have life insurance for my family, for my wife and 4 kids. And the best place to get life insurance is ethos.com because you can do it in 10 minutes. And there's no medical exam and no blood test, just a few health questions. Get life insurance in 10 minutes so your family is protected. Ethos, E-T-H-O-S, ethos.com/Mike.
Some people spend more time planning their weekend barbecue than their retirement. And hey, I love barbecue, but ribs won't pay your bills at 85. I'm Gary Goldberg, the founder of Financial and Tax Strategies. I'll help you retire younger, richer, and with less anxiety. Give me a call, 800-966-1690, or visit us at checkwithgary.com before you burn through more than just your burgers.
Investment advisory services offered through Centaurus Financial, Inc., an FFC-registered investment advisor.
Welcome back to Winter Hack Radio, the place for clever hacks to survive the season. Icy driveway? Well, try spreading sand or birdseed to help with traction. Snowy puppy paws? Well, grab a whisk, brush it off, done. Catch COVID-19? Well, just get...
Actually, there's no hack for COVID-19. But if you test positive, prescription medications for COVID exist. Ask your doctor if they're right for you. Visit PfizerForAll.com to learn more. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Rush Hour Sports continues on 104.1 FM, KMOX.
All right, Rush Hour Sports. Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you here, and we're taking some of your questions, comments, and opinions on the chat. So if you're on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, feel free to throw in your 2 cents, ask a question, throw in a comment, whatever you want. We're moving on to the Cardinals' offense here, and we'll be talking a bit about that as we go. You know, it's a lineup, Matt, that if you just peek at it, it's not imposing. It's not one that that anybody's going to be intimidated by. And I'm not even sure there's a clear way to make the lineup, make a batting order right now that will look in any way powerful, because you don't have power. That's the one thing that, you know, with or without Brendan Donovan, your 2 power guys are Ivan Herrera and Nolan Gorman, with Burleson also kind of close because he's not truly a power guy. He's just a good hitter who will hit some home runs because he's a big guy. But you're not going to see a lot of power unless you see major improvement from guys like Gorman and Walker, or you know, a healthy, improved year from Lars Nootbaar, and he's not going to hit for power, but like maybe power in numbers rather than power from the very top end of the roster.
Yeah, the Gorman and Walker taking steps forward, like we said. Just rewind everything we said last year and apply it to this year when it comes to those guys. Gorman and Walker taking a step forward is an opportunity for more offense. Ivan Herrera staying healthy for the entire season is an opportunity for more offense. And J.J. Weatherholt jumping into Major League Baseball and being really, really good from the start is an opportunity. Outside of that, you're going to get a full season of Alec Burleson because last year he was on the bench a lot to start the season. So you should get a little bit more overall production from Burley. But I don't think that's like difference making for this club.
Right.
So it's got to be Walker and Gorman.
Yeah, I think so. And look, there are players that are not going to be on the opening day roster that can impact this. Certainly Joshua Baez, who may or may, I doubt he'll be on the opening day roster, but I think we will see him. And his power's real. The question will be, were his swing changes that he made last year that we saw work in A-ball and in Double-A, are they going to last? Are they going to stick? And if they do, then yeah, there's another guy that can be a power bat. Weatherholt's is going to make you a better lineup. He's a good hitter. He's going to be a competitive, difficult guy to get out from the word go. But I think, when we look at where this is, I think this is the clear weakness of the team as it stands today and as it is likely to stand on opening day. They're going to have to pitch a lot better than they did in the past to be better, but I don't think that's an unreasonable thing because we just watched, 2 or 3 of the worst starting pitchers in baseball fill out a big chunk of your rotation.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not trying to take a shot at a guy who I really like personally, but we talk so much about Miles Michaelis and Eric Fetty weighing down the rotation. We don't talk about Andre Palante as much as we should.
Yeah.
His final month and a half of the season just was not good enough. And I think if the Cardinals were putting together a starting rotation tomorrow, he wouldn't be in it. Now he's got an opportunity to get back in it based off the spring and based off what other guys end up doing. But the fact that they are moving forward with starting pitchers who I think are going to be better than Miles Michaelis, Eric Fedde, and Andre Palante, that should be an area right off the bat where the team is better.
Got a question on the stream. Aces says, guys, do you think Weatherholt's the same player as Tommy Edman? Do you think Weatherholt's better or maybe not as good as Tommy Edman? And I say this, Aces, in no way to take any shots at Tommy Edman because I'm a Tommy Edman fan. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a hell of a player. I think he's an important player. At no point in his career was he ever the hitter that J.J. Weatherholt is. I mean, you're talking about comparing an 8th-round draft pick who played 400 games in the minor leagues and didn't hit for any power to a guy who could have been the number 1 pick in the draft but was a top 10 pick in the draft, number 7 pick in the draft, who is rated as one of the top 3 to 5 prospects in the sport, depending on which outlet you're looking at. And Tommy Edman never had that profile. If he's Tommy Edman, this will be a massive disappointment.
If J.J. Weatherholt has a single time any of the seasons that Tommy Edman has had, any of his last 3 years, it's an incredible disappointment. And I'm not trying to put too much on Weatherholt here, and especially from the beginning before he's even taken a single major league at bat. But I'm with you. I really like Tommy Edman. I think he's great on the Dodgers. He's the perfect kind of player for that roster.
Absolutely.
But let's not vault this guy into something that he's not. Last year, and he was banged up a little bit, but last year the dude was a 225 hitter with a 656 OPS. His OPS last year was lower than Nolan Arenado's OPS last year. So, no, I think it would be an incredible disappointment for Weatherholt and the expectations we are placing upon him if he put up Tommy Edman-like numbers.
So Tommy has, he's a really important player because of versatility, speed. He's got a little pop. He hits lefties well. He doesn't hit right-handers at all. And you look at his career numbers, that's been true since he got into the big leagues. But his total package offensively is about league average. If J.J. Weatherholt is league average, that's a massive disappointment. I mean, I think that the way I've kind of categorized Weatherholt is I think his floor is like a guy like Jake Cronenworth, who is that league average guy that we're talking about. Like, that's the worst he is. At his peak, he's probably Chase Utley. Like, that's what you're hoping for. Probably doesn't get to that. Most guys don't get to Chase Utley level. That guy probably is going into the Hall of Fame at some point. But I think that he's got that level of offensive capability.
I tend to agree with what you just said. And this is one, we were talking earlier about from a financial standpoint when you can do things that have a long-term negative impact on your organization. Well, if much like the tragic passing of Oscar Taveras had a long-time negative impact on the organization, and in some ways they never really recovered from it. If J.J. Weatherholt, and this isn't fair to put these expectations on a young guy who's never taken a swing in the big leagues, but if J.J. Weatherholt does not become a really, really good big league player, that's a long-term negative for this team.
It's a setback for sure. All right, we'll continue the offensive conversation here in just a second. First up, though, let's see what's going on the roadways. I know it's been a pretty busy afternoon commute. Here's Captain Roger Brand.
Traffic from the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
Well, right now, Kevin, we got a crash in the right lane, eastbound 70 east of Cypress, so traffic's jammed back to the Rock Road because of it. Westbound 70 slow, 270 out to about 5th Street and eastbound around our city's a little heavy as well. Westbound 64 still backed up from Boyle out to McCausland. There's a little slowdown at Topgolf, and then Lake St. Louis Boulevard at 70. A crash now northbound 61. Earlier, we had one north of P. They cleared it. Now there's one midway between Wentzville Parkway and Highway P, so traffic's jammed back pretty close to Highway 70 on northbound 61 right now because of that. South 270 from south of Olive down to Manchester, slow. Northbound 64 up to Ladou's busy. Eastbound 64 is on the brakes from 170 all the way in through Hampton. We had an earlier crash east of there. South 170 bogs down at the Parkway. Southbound 55 still pretty heavy from Arsenal down through Bates. I'm Roger Brand at the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
All right, back to the offense. And, I think, Matt, the only way the offense gets significantly better this year is if you get the breakout that you've been waiting for from Walker and Gorman. And I wouldn't anticipate both of them I think we could hope. I hope one of them figures something out. But it's all a hope at this point. There's no real strong evidence that says, hey, this is coming. It's great to see Walker getting in the extra work at Driveline early in the offseason. He's been a guy who, according to a lot of people, has been a little bit hesitant to change, and that as soon as something goes bad, he kind of reverts to old habits. And I'm hoping that's not the case this offseason, because the two things, he has some swing things he needs to work on, but mostly, even if his swing stays the same, he's got to swing at better pitches. It's a hard thing to do, but like the number one rule of hitting, according to Ted Williams, is get a good pitch to hit, and sliders low and away are not good pitches to hit.
Yeah, I think these two guys are actually in two very different spots when we compare Gorman and Walker and them taking steps forward. For me, this is the kind of the last opportunity for Gorman. He's been around long enough. He's got to show it. For Jordan Walker, he still has all the underlying stuff, and he's still relatively young. I got frustrated with Ollie last year when he would talk about Walker and talk about the necessity of last year being a year where they need to find things out about Walker and they got to figure out who this guy is. No, there was no pressure on that to happen last year. You've still got a guy that is super young, and if he just happens to be a late bloomer, there's no guarantee it's going to happen this year or next year. So I always pushed back a little bit on the idea that last year was some sort of make or break year for Walker, and clearly it wasn't, because we're having these exact same conversations.
That's exactly right.
I'd love for this offseason stuff to work for Walker. It might not.
Yeah.
Anybody who thinks they know, well, they're fully you-know-what, because we simply don't know. And I'm not trying to be a jerk when I say this, but I'm not going to fall into the trap. I have been caught up on both those guys, and I still think that each of them have really high ceilings. I'm not sitting here saying that they're not going to become that, but I'm not going out on a limb and saying it's going to happen this year. At this point, they just got to prove it to me.
Yeah. And, one of the things that's going to be, and one of the thing that's really difficult to measure is that adjustment when it comes to what you're swinging at, right? Gorman got a little better at that at times last year, but then reverted to some old habits as well. Walker just never got better at it. And you can have all the swing characteristics you want. If you can't tell the difference between a ball and a strike, and you can't get the strike that you want and not miss it, it's hard to hit in this sport. Not hard. It's impossible to hit if you can't do those things.
It's such an impactful thing, and this is coming from a really weird comparison, because it's one guy who can't hit the ball and one guy who really can hit the ball. But watching what Alec Burleson did last year in terms of pitch recognition, they're trying to do the same thing. Burleson's coming from a spot of, I need to swing at less stuff, and Walker, I need to swing at less stuff that I can hit, and Walker's coming from a point of, I need to actually hit stuff that's in the area. But just the fact that Burleson went through what he went through last year on pitch recognition, swing decisions, and knowing when to swing, and Walker needs to do the exact same thing. And if he does that, I think everything else kind of falls into place. If he's somebody that starts making contact, we get so bent out of shape on how often he puts it into the ground, and rightfully so. He's not going to be an extra base hitter if he is continuing to hit ground balls. He's got to get some loft, but first hit the ball. And I think if he starts hitting the ball and making contact more consistently, those other things that we worry about with him, those are going to start to come around.
Yeah, and Burley's a great example of what we're talking about. He made a massive leap last year. His numbers before weren't bad, but they went from basically league average to well above league average because he
won a Silver Slugger.
Because he made better swing decisions. So if you look at 2024, his chase rate ranked in the bottom 14% in Major League Baseball. Bat speed, all those things are basically the same, but he chased at a ridiculous rate. He improved that and was near the midway point, near league average in chase rate, and look how much his numbers jumped without many of the other characteristics changing at all. And you notice his bat speed, average bat speed, went up a little bit, because when you're swinging at crappy pitches, you have to slow your bat down to make contact. You're reaching, you're not getting your A swing off. So by being more selective, he actually had the opportunity to do more damage.
Yeah, that's being smart about it too, because he has to recognize the fact that there's going to be a pitch that he's going to take as a first pitch at bat, first pitch of the bat. All of a sudden the count's 0-2 or one, you got 2 strikes against you, and you're going to change your approach. That's something else that Burleson did. It wasn't just learning not to swing at certain pitches. It was learning not to swing at certain pitches in certain situations.
Absolutely. All right, we can do a little more on the offense before we wrap it up and turn it over to Sports Open Line. And we got a couple more questions on the chat that we want to get to as well. Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you on Rush Hour Sports.
Get this, 42% of baby boomers don't even know how much money they have in their nest egg. If you're not sure where you stand in terms of getting ready for retirement, you should be listening to the All Financial Hour with Steve All.
Let's sit down and talk about your questions, because I think that's the most important thing that it is out there. It's what questions do you have?
Saturday mornings at 10 or Sunday evenings at 6, right here on KMOX.
We have another weekend of NFL playoff action coming up. I know you're going to be sitting down on your couch watching the games. How would you like those games to be meaning just a little bit more for you? Well, DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, they make every moment bigger. So as the game shifts and you're noticing things, you know what? You can live bet. There is no better platform to go through live betting than what they have at DraftKings. So, maybe that Bills-Broncos game, that's been interesting because that opened up as a Buffalo favorite. Now Denver's a favorite. It's expected to be a tight game. All of a sudden somebody gets out to an early lead and you have a certain feeling about what's going to happen in the second half. You're able to make that bet. How about, though, the player props? They've got the best player prop betting system out there because they've got your back with early exit protection. If a player in your eligible NFL prop bet goes down at any point in the first half, you still get paid in cash. They cover you for the entire first half. Why would you bet player props anywhere else? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code KMOX. That's code KMOX to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bets win. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus, physically present in Missouri. Eligibility and restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Additional terms at dkng.com/audio. Limited time offer.
Traffic from the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
Well, they're still working with the crash eastbound 70 east to Cypress. The right lane's blocked. Traffic's jammed back to the Rock Road. If you're on westbound Highway 70 and eastbound 70 around our city, it's a little bit busy. Westbound and eastbound 64, you've got backed up traffic. Eastbound approaching 170, it's pockets all the way into Kings Highway. Westbound Kings Highway headed out through Big Bend is slow. We have a couple of crashes eastbound there. North 270 is a little slow through Ladue. Southbound's pretty well cleared out. Southbound 55, still kind of busy. Gasconade Bates. And we have this crash. The new one that's in the one I mentioned last time. It's in the right lane, northbound 61, midway between Wentzville Parkway and Highway P. Northbound 61 is jammed back to Highway 70. Police are on the way to it now. Northbound 170 still heavy, scuttered Airport Road. I'm Roger Brand at the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
This is Rush Hour Sports on 104.1 FM KMOX.
All right, a few minutes left here on Rush Hour Sports. Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you here. Sports Open Line after the top of the hour news. And then at 6:45, Billikens pregame, 7 o'clock for the opening tip for the Bills tonight. The last couple things, Matt, on the offense. We've got a couple more comments we want to get to here. Let's see. Garland threw in a good one. Said, seems like when Walker was coming up, he didn't chase breaking pitches. He certainly didn't chase as much his first year as he has in the subsequent years. And he had some more success hitting breaking balls before. But what we have to acknowledge, kind of bake into the equation, is teams didn't know him at first. Mm-hmm. And once they figured out the pattern, just go low and away, low and away, low and away, low and away. That's all he gets. It's literally all he gets now. And that's part of what changed. Some of it may be his lack of comfort with making the adjustments that they're asking him to make, or they've been asking him to make. I think those two things play in together a little bit, but a lot of it is teams figuring out your weaknesses and just exploiting it.
Yeah, this is such an important time for him right now because it is, and you could speak to this better than I can, Kevin, because you played the game at a high level and I didn't. But I know for a fact that making in-season adjustments is one of the most challenging things out there. So when they're when they're working with him on things at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it is very challenging to implement those things at 7 o'clock at night. And all of a sudden you get stuck in this like in-between land because you have no confidence in what you're trying to do. Yet if you go back to what you had been doing, you're not even committed to that. And all of a sudden you're just in this murky area of not being able to do a thing.
No, you're 100% right. And it's why I was really hard on the previous front office. Because I think those changes should have been made when he was 18, 19 years old. They shouldn't have let him just, quote, get comfortable as a professional. You should have started with those changes when he was in A-ball. Because the time to be uncomfortable is in A-ball. The time to be comfortable is when you get to the big leagues. And you shouldn't get to the big leagues until you're able to do the things that are necessary to succeed in the big leagues. So while it's Monday morning quarterbacking now, I did say those things at the time. And it's important that this new group makes that change too. That if you want guys, if you see, because at the draft, Matt, I'm sure you remember this. There were plenty of draft analysts who were like, yeah, you know what? Jordan Walker's, boy, he's a freak. He's a great talent. He's unbelievable, but he's going to need some swing changes. He, hits too many balls on the ground was a thing before he was a Cardinal. Mm-hmm. And everybody knew that. That should have been job one. That and converting to the outfield immediately. But they chose comfort and getting acclimated and letting him feel good. And he had success because he was the biggest, strongest guy on the field. But he wasn't learning the things he needed to learn to succeed at the major league level.
Yeah, I mean, adversity earlier would have been a really, really good thing for him to experience, and he just didn't go through it. I think this goes back to something the organization is now doing with Rob Cerfolio and company, where every single player in the organization basically has a customized player plan and player profile that's put together for them on an every-year basis. Yeah. That allows you to more effectively recognize the things that need to be worked on.
All right, two more quick things. This one, Eric Walker was rushed. Yeah, absolutely. I know he had the good spring, or at least the good start to the spring. We all got excited. The team got too excited, but it was definitely before he was ready. So agree with that. Even if we didn't all feel exactly that way at the time, it's correct. And then Aces, what position did Kevin play in baseball? I played bullpen catcher. That's what I played in college. I was bullpen catcher in college, but a real catcher in high school. But I didn't play pro. But I was bullpen catcher, Matt.
But you played at Miami. You got into some games at Miami.
I was on the roster.
Yeah.
I think I got into 8 games or something like that.
Okay.
In 3
8
years.
Division I games at a very high level. You're good.
Hey, don't get me wrong. I'm happy with what happened. Just want to be real with it. I was a bullpen catcher for most of that time. All right, Matt, have a good show on Sports Open Line. You got Sports Open Line after the news, Billikens after that, right here on KMOX.
Do you have 3 ex-wives and your current trophy wife wants a life insurance policy 3 times the size of the policies you had to purchase for your previous mistakes? If so, you need to call Big Lou at Term Provider, 800-700-6898. Big Lou is intimately familiar with your problems, and if you're 50 or 60 years old and in reasonably good health, a $1 million policy should only cost about $100 to $200 per month. Big Lou may have a solution for your previous policies as well. You may even save enough money to lighten the load on your new $1 million policy. Remember, call Big Lou. He's like you, except he's only on number 2. Call Term Provider at 800-700-6898. That's 800-700-6898. For $1 million in term life insurance that you can live with. Call Big Lou at 800-700-6898. 800-700-6898.
I'm Bob Burke, founder and chairman of Burke America Parts Group, a family of brands that includes RepairClinic.com, an appliance and HVAC parts solution company that's grown into an international brand. Before AmericanEagle.com, we partially launched a new technology platform developed by another firm. American Eagle helped take our technology to a whole new level with digital marketing, software development, and business insights into our key markets, appliances, HVAC, and outdoor power equipment, and did so both on time and on budget. AmericanEagle.com has the resources, experience, and talent needed to produce solutions. Our new technology platform, developed by AmericanEagle.com, has produced tremendous results with higher traffic, conversion, engagement, and online revenue. If you have any home repairs you need to take care of, check us out at RepairClinic.com. If you need a world-class website or technology project, then I would highly recommend AmericanEagle.com.
Call AmericanEagle.com at 773-NETWORK. That's AmericanEagle.com, 773-NETWORK.
The St. Louis Symphony Orchestra brings the sweet nostalgia and soul-shattering passion of Tchaikovsky's Fourth Symphony to life this January. This energetic program also features performer Wu Wei, playing a stunning concerto on the sheng, a mouth organ and one of the oldest known Chinese instruments. Don't miss this unique program. January 24th and 25th at Powell Hall at the Jack C. Taylor Music Center. Tickets at slso.org.
They're back and bringing all the hits. This is Rascal Flatts. Rascal Flatts, live at Enterprise Center January 17th. Sing along to all of their best songs. One night, one stage. All the songs you love. Tickets still available at Ticketmaster.com. For more information, KMOX.com/events.
Traffic from the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
Well, the biggest jam we have right now is northbound 61. We have this crash in the right lane midway between Wentzville Parkway and Highway P. Traffic's jammed back to Highway 70. Speaking of 70, they're still working that crash 70 eastbound east of Cypress. Right lane's closed. Traffic's jammed back past Lindbergh because of that one. Eastbound 64 still backed up through the Interbelt, and it's slow from Bellevue, bumper to bumper really, through Hampton. Westbound approaching Hampton, headed out through Bellevue, is also heavy right now, and North 270 backs up 64 to Ladue. From the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
Celebrating 100 years of informing and entertaining. KMOX AM St. Louis, KMOX FM Hazelwood, the voice of St. Louis.
This is CBS News on the Hour, your home for original reporting.
I'm Jennifer Kuiper. President Trump says the Iranian government has stopped its crackdown on protesters.
The executions won't take place. There were supposed to be a lot of executions today. The executions won't take place.
CBS's Face the Nation moderator Margaret Brennan.
Well, what we know from sources in the region is that there is the assessment from many regional allies that the regime has begun to really reestablish control. In other words, really through violence, reestablish control over the protesters. Does that mean the movement and the protests have completely stopped? That's something only time will tell.
Senate Republicans have voted to dismiss a war powers resolution that would have limited President Trump's ability to conduct further attacks on Venezuela. Two GOP senators, Josh Hawley of Missouri and Todd Young of Indiana, under pressure by the president, reversed course on supporting the legislation. The final tally was 50-50, so Vice President Vance cast the deciding vote and the measure died. Denmark Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen says, after meeting with U.S. officials, that when it comes to the U.S. getting Greenland,
we therefore still have a fundamental disagreement, but we also agree to disagree. And therefore we will, however, continue to talk. We have decided to form a high-level working group to explore if we can find a common way forward.
President Trump says that Greenland is essential for U.S. national security. In Congress, GOP Senator Mitch McConnell of Kentucky says,
and I've yet to hear from this administration a single thing we need from Greenland that the sovereign people is not ready and willing to grant us.
Several lawmakers on Capitol Hill are calling for the impeachment of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem over increasingly violent interactions with ICE in cities including Minneapolis. CBS's Allison Keyes explains.
Democratic Illinois Representative Robin Kelly has introduced 3 articles of impeachment against Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, saying Noem has brought her reign of terror from Chicagoland to L.A. to Minneapolis.
She needs to be held accountable for her actions.
Complaints against Noem have escalated since the ICE killing of a Minneapolis woman, but Noem says the woman committed
an act of domestic terrorism.
Allison Keyes, CBS News, Washington.
They should have remained on the International Space Station until late February.
Undocking
Dragon
confirmed.
SpaceX separation confirmed. Dragon SpaceX separation confirmed.
But NASA cut short the mission of 4 astronauts, so one of them, who has not been identified, can be treated by doctors. It's the first medical evacuation by NASA in 65 years of human spaceflight. 2025 U.S. home sales were stuck at a 30-year low. This is CBS News.
Real crimes, real justice. Follow and listen to 48 Hours on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
At 6:03 right now, it's a clear sky, 32 degrees, but the feels like is 16 downtown at the Arch. St. Louis Mayor Kara Spencer in Jefferson City today to attend Governor Kehoe's prayer breakfast. Spencer tells reporters she wants to make sure the city of St. Louis earnings tax is protected.
Mayor Spencer says she is in lockstep with Governor Kehoe for dispersing $100 million that was approved in a special session.
We are leveraging those dollars with FEMA. So as FEMA has been shifting over the last year, it's made it a bit more challenging to ensure that as we combine those funds together, we're able to get them out quickly.
Spencer says the state has been a phenomenal partner, and while people feel like progress is not being made quicker, Spencer says once that money is out the door, she wants to make sure that FEMA will not call it back. Maria Aquina, KMOX News.
Downtown and Downtown West saw a combined 1 murder in 2025, a sharp decrease from 11 the year prior. City Chief of Police Robert Tracy says they understand downtown safety is paramount to not just the city, but the region's success.
Bringing events to our city, that's one of the biggest things. It's an economic engine. We just had the U.S. Figure Skating Championships. It was an absolute success.
Tracy credits not just the department's strategies, but Circuit Attorney Gabe Gore holding criminals accountable as part of the reason for the drop in murders downtown. The city is seeing a rise in a particular kind of firearm, though.
Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Cousins says ghost guns are on the rise in St. Louis City.
PMFs, which is privately made firearms, and those are the guns that people can make at their homes that does not have a serial number.
In 2025, the department seized 77 ghost guns, nearly double compared to 2024. Cousins says they did seize about the same amount of switches, which convert semi-automatic weapons to fully automatic. Sean Malone, KMOX News.
St. Charles City Mayor Dan Borkmeyer says there'll be no changes to some major popular festivals, Legends and Lanterns, Christmas traditions, and Once Upon a Valentine.
I will tell you, however, we did look at a few small ones, like there's a few things in Newtown that they do on their own, and we supply a lot of staff and things for those. So there was some small tweaking on the little bitty events, but no, none of the big events are affected.
Okay, and right now I think we have a problem with trust and transparency, and the fact that they were not called out as 3 things that will exist under a certain department is the reason the question is being asked. So those 3 events, I'm asking directly, will remain at least through 2026 and will remain under the CVB. Is that right?
I believe that will be addressed by, those are administrative decisions pretty much, and I believe that will be addressed by the 3 professionals who collaborate, who decide what fits best where.
This comes after the St. Charles Mayor Borkmeyer proposed restructuring the tourism department, something that Main Street business owners and neighbors do not want. The president of the St. Louis City School Board of Education says this week's action by the state to lower the district's accreditation status is a chance to prove that city leaders can correct issues.
Speaking on Total Information AM, Dr. Karen Collins-Adams did express concern that this could open up a future of more charter schools.
Well, if charter schools expand, parents start looking at options to leave the school district and move into a charter school. But we have to look at whether or not our charter schools have been successful.
Collins-Adams says the first priority for the district, completing a required audit for the State Department of Elementary and Secondary Education by the end of the month. Megan Lynch, KMOX News.
And a year and a half after a giant sinkhole opened up in the middle of Gordon Moore Park in Alton, progress is being made toward a resolution. The hole has been drained by SCI Engineering, and they're now working to study the ground, says Alton Mayor David Goins.
As agreed by the Alton City Council, SCI Engineering has been asked to explore the subsurface conditions at and near the mine collapse.
Goins says this will give them the information they need to properly fill the hole. 6:07, Roger Brand, how's it going out there on the roads?
Well, we're wrapping up with a few crashes, Michael. We've had them out there for a little bit. I'm looking at the one right now. They still have the right lane shut down, eastbound 70 east to Cypress. Traffic's a solid jam at Lindbergh because of that one. We have a crash north 270 at Ladue. I can't see what lane's blocked, but traffic's jammed back to 64 because of that one. And the longest jam we have is northbound 61. There's still a crash in the right lane midway between Wentzville Parkway and Highway P. Traffic on northbound 61 is a solid jam back at Highway 70. Other than that, there's just a little volume. Eastbound 64, 170 to Big Bend, and westbound 64, Hampton to Clayton Skinker, a little slow. Rest of the highways are looking good. I'm Roger Brand at the Michaels Flooring Outlet.com Traffic Center.
The colder northwest flow now in control into next week. Clear skies. It's cold this evening. It's cold overnight, down to 18 degrees. Thursday, sunny skies, though let's think increasing clouds, especially during the afternoon. A cold 34 degrees. Thursday night, clouds, some light snow and snow flurries primarily late. Let's think an inch or less accumulation. A dry, wind-blown snow, 26 on Thursday night. Friday could start with some flurries around first thing in the morning. Otherwise, partly sunny and 42. Friday night, clouds, snow flurries around down to 21. The weekend, Saturday, partly sunny. A couple of snow flurries, 29 for the high. And Sunday, sunny and 26. From the Saliga Heating and Cooling Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Dave Murray on 104.1 FM. KMOX.
Right now, it's a clearing up sky, 32. The feels like it's 16 downtown at the Arch, in large part because winds are out of the north-northwest at 14, but gusting up to 30 miles per hour. I'm Michael Calhoun, KMOX News.
Come on, let's get going now.
From KMOX Sports.
We're primed and ready. All day, baby. Man, let's go.
This is the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Gray Bar, your distributor for electrical and datacom needs. On 104.1 FM, KMOX.
On a Wednesday evening, we welcome you in. It is time for a Gray Bar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX. It is going to be an abbreviated edition of the program today. That's because we've got Billikens basketball. They are at home tonight over at Chaffetz Arena. They are playing host to Fordham. That's going to be a tip time of just after 7 o'clock. That means our coverage with Bob Ramsey and Earl Austin Jr. will get underway at 6:45. So about 35 minutes from right now, we're going to be done with Sports Open Line for the night and be rooting for the Billikens to get off to a 4-0 start in Atlantic 10 Conference play. Thought it was interesting. There is some stumping going on right now at the governmental level for the Billikens to leave the Atlantic 10 Conference and go to the Big East. We have heard that before. That is nothing new. Now politicians in Missouri and Ohio are standing shoulder to shoulder with the idea to get SLU to the Big East along with Dayton to the Big East, another A-10 program. And, yeah, you know what? That'd be fun, but as the statement from SLU today said, they are a proud member of the Atlantic 10 Conference, and let's just live in the moment here as they're good. They're really good this year. It feels like they're on a track to get to the NCAA tournament. The next question is, can this program get back to a point, or maybe get to a point? I guess we can argue if it would be back to a point or if it's something that would be somewhat team that really is almost expected to be an NCAA tournament team on an every-year basis. It would be great to have a program like that in St. Louis. So, again, we've got Billikens basketball coming your way in about 35 minutes for the broadcast and about 50 minutes for when tip time is going to be. If you're still looking for something to do this evening, head on over to Chaffetz Arena. Those crowds are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. That is a great venue to watch basketball, and the more people that are in there, the better it is. So I would encourage you to check that out. We're going to be doing this for a little while. You know, we just spent the entire hour during Rush Hour Sports talking about baseball, and the trade of Nolan Arenado to the Arizona Diamondbacks is still, I think, fresh in the minds of a lot of people. And Arenado did meet with the Diamondbacks media today, and he had some interesting things to say. Essentially, he felt like at times he was standing in the way of what the Cardinals were trying to do moving forward with some younger players, that he was very grateful for his time in St. Louis, very grateful for the dealings with Chaim Bloom here recently, as there was a lot of communication about what it might look like moving forward. He evidently added teams to his list that he would be willing to be traded to. It was previously 5 teams last year when we were going through this. Evidently went up to 8 teams, and now he's in Arizona, and he's not going to be expected to do as much offensively as you would have. He can go hit 7th or 8th if you need him to with that Diamondbacks lineup, and it's going to be okay. Where with the St. Louis lineup, fair or not fair, he was expected to do a lot more offensively, and he was more in the middle of the order. So he's going to have an opportunity here at the end of his career to kind of ease into a place where it's going to better fit what his skill set is currently, and I'm happy for him. he could go out and have this amazing resurgence where all of a sudden we see 2022 Nolan Arenado again. You're not going to hear me being critical of the fact that the Cardinals moved on from that guy, because I don't think that's going to happen, but even if some version of that does happen, I don't think it would have happened in St. Louis. And more than anything else, I am happy that he's able to do that. So as long as it doesn't get in the way of the Cardinals accomplishing anything, let's go see the Arizona Diamondbacks have a nice season and Arenado be right in the middle of that. There's already some speculation that the D-backs could be interested in bringing Paul Goldschmidt back, and he could play as a platoon first baseman over at first base, because as he's moved on into his career, he's become very splitty, but he could do a nice job against left-handed starters at first base and DH a little bit. I think that would be fun. I think that would be a whole lot of fun to see Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado on the Arizona Diamondbacks together and see what it would work out. I know for some Cardinals fans it might be a little bit painful, especially if the Diamondbacks have a nice season and if they win a bunch of games. I'm not living in the moment, so maybe as it was happening, my opinion might change on it a little bit. But if that does happen, if those two guys are there on that roster, if the Diamondbacks do end up bringing back a Paul Goldschmidt, and the team and those guys have a really good year, I really think I'm just going to be happy for them that it's working out that way. Derek Gould wrote about this a little bit in the Post-Dispatch, and we played a lot. I hope you were with us yesterday as we did between 5 o'clock and 8 o'clock yesterday. I thought it was really, really good coverage. And also during the Gas House Gang. The trade report broke right before the Gas House Gang went on the air yesterday. So they did an hour yesterday at noon on Arenado, and then we did 3 hours here in the evening. And I hope baseball fans in St. Louis were able to take it all in. We played back much of what Chaim Bloom had to say in his Zoom media session yesterday. And at one point, he alluded to the ground that still needs to be covered. And when we played it, I specifically pointed that out, but I do hope that is something that Cardinals fans are hearing, that there is an acknowledgement from the organization that there is a ton of work to do, and there is a ton of distance to get to where this team wants to go. And why that's important, I actually think that's good that they look at it that way and not bad, because if we all know where they're at, if they feel like it's a short trip to where they want to get to, well, then where they want to get to is probably being a wild card team and not being a team that's competing for World Series championships. If they acknowledge the long road that is in front of them for this organization to get to where it wants to go, then they have their eyes set where the eyes need to be set, and that's getting this team back to legitimate championship contention, which they're not at right now, and it's going to take a little bit of time to get there. We are going to take a break, and when we return, we're going to talk with our friend Bernie Miklasz. Time for our weekly conversation with him. He joins us in just a moment. You are locked to a Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
Overhead Door Company of St. Louis is hiring residential garage door technicians and installers. Join the team trusted here since 1926. Apply today, get a call today. No experience necessary. We will train motivated applicants to repair and install garage doors. Mechanical, carpentry, and service industry experience is a plus. Hiring bonus up to $4,000. Benefits include health, dental, vision, and pension. Earn as you learn to service the best garage door customers in St. Louis. Apply today at overheaddoorstlouis.com.
Hey guys, Glover here for my friends at Cantor Injury Law. So as you know, I'm a lawyer, haven't practiced in a long time, but I did plaintiff's work and defense work, so I have a pretty good understanding of it. I have a pretty good idea of who's who in the firmament of plaintiffs' attorneys. And for my money, Mark Cantor is the guy. He's a great attorney. He is a great practitioner. He's put together a great team. He was born and raised here. He lives here. He works here. He wins here. Call 314-628-all-9s or CantorInjuryLaw.com. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based on fun advertising.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
ZipRecruiter. At Graybar, we know your time is money. That's why our services go beyond parts and products. With kitting, pre-assembly, wire carts, and Graybar smart reels that keep you moving. We stage materials and manage logistics so you can spend less time sorting and more time installing. And with locations nationwide, we deliver when and where you need it, working to make your job easier every step of the way. Yep, Graybar does that.
Here in St. Louis, we take pride in supporting our health and our community. That's why more and more families are turning to Neovitin multivitamins, created by a local physician and made right here in the U.S. using the highest quality domestic and international ingredients. With formulas for men, women, and adults 50 plus, Neovitin helps keep St. Louis families energized, supported, and ready for life. Find Neovitin at your local Deerbergs, Schnucks, and online at neovitin.com. Neovitin, trusted nutrition from St. Louis for St. Louis.
Hey guys, Dave Glover here from the Dave Glover Show. So, what is my show? My show is 4 different people living 4 different lives, all coming together every day between 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. to talk about life, actual life. Not so much headlines or did you see what Trump did today or XYZ. Never predictable because I never know what I'm going to talk about from one segment to the next. So it truly is unique and unpredictable. Join us.
104.1 FM, KMOX.
Hello, I'm John Rooney. Congratulations to KMOX on 100 years strong, truly making KMOX the voice of St. Louis.
Welcome back in to Graybar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX. We are done early today because we've got Billikens basketball. They are going to match up against Fordham this evening. That's going to be a 7 o'clock start. Our coverage, Bob Ramsey and Earl Austin Jr. will begin at 6:45. Very happy to welcome in right now. You hear them on KMOX all the time. Chris and Amy, Gas House Gang, Dave Glover Show, Sports on a Sunday morning. Of course, you read him and you watch him as well over at STL Sports Central. It's our good friend, Bernie Miklasz. Bernie, always appreciate the time. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing good, brother Pauley. Good to be with you as always.
Yeah, I was thinking about this today. So I always we say things and then time passes and then we just kind of forget that we ever said stuff. And I always try to remember the things I said or the things I thought and then watching it play out. And I remember as Chaim Bloom gets the job to become the president of baseball operation for the Cardinals, I kept saying over and over, man, this guy, he had to receive some assurances from the DeWitts about some things that they want to be able to do because after he went through what he went through in Boston, there's no way he's walking into a new job without knowing that he's going to basically get what he wants to get from ownership. And I don't say this to pat myself on the back. I get tons of stuff wrong, but I feel like we're seeing the fruits of those conversations because they are spending a lot of money for players to no longer be Cardinals, and I'm not worried about that money, but it does say something about his ability to basically do what he wants to do to put together this roster for now and for the future.
Yeah, I talked about this before, but not for a while. Chaim Bloom wanted to be careful after what happened to him in Boston, although he had great admiration for the DeWitts. He respected the Cardinals' winning history and the fact that for a long time their baseball operation was terrific. He knew that because John Mozeliak conveyed it to him, they needed to make a change. They needed to sort of, get into the future a little bit and catch up. So Chaim Bloom came to St. Louis, and as you know, he observed for a long time, and then they were starting to get down to talking about whether he would get the job or not. And I've told this story, and I don't think Bill DeWitt Jr. minds me repeating it. So Bill DeWitt III, Bill DeWitt Jr., I don't know who else. It might have been Mo. They went into a big conference room, and and Chaim Bloom was going to make his presentation about what the Cardinals needed to do, how much money it would take, what kind of commitment it would require. He laid it all out. In other words, he did not, underestimate it or kind of downplay the cost and just the scope of what he wanted to do. So he gave a 3.5-hour presentation, and the DeWitts were like, whoa. And Bill DeWitt, to me, joked. He said, the only thing wrong with his presentation, there's one thing wrong. I said, what was that? He said, I needed to go to the bathroom. Because he just went 3.5 hours, and both DeWitt said is the most thorough, impressive thing they've ever been a part of, as far as someone making a presentation and telling them to their face, this is what's wrong. This is how it went wrong. This is what you got to fix. Here's how I'll fix it. This is what I need. This is the kind of commitment it's going to take, and right on down the line. And the DeWitts were very, very impressed. Now, listen, they were going to hire him anyway, but they were sort of blown away by how comprehensive and how direct he was, and also how candid he was. And I think he had them right there. Not that they would have denied, contributing money to make these trades work and contributing money to the redevelopment of the farm system and all that. They were going to do that, but they just realized, wait a minute, this guy is exactly what we need, and let's make sure we give him everything he needs. And they have absolutely followed up on that. Now, for the people that are DeWitt haters who choose to forget the first 27 years of his ownership, that shouldn't be surprising, because the Cardinals for the longest time were sort of on top of things. And then they went into a slump. They neglected some stuff. It got bad. But they dug in again, and they brought in a guy, and they said, you do whatever you have to do, and we're behind you. And that's exactly what's been happening. And I find it really encouraging.
It's going to be fun to watch here, because now with Arenado being traded, they've got nothing that they are totally locked in on beyond this year. If you are a president of baseball operations who wants to have resources plus a completely blank slate, that's a pretty rare thing to have. Like, guys rarely go into situations with that, and Chaim's got that opportunity, and basically it starts right now.
Yeah, you and I were chatting a little bit last night through text message, and I, wrote about it, talked about it, did a video about it today. Chaim Bloom, this is the most unique situation with Cardinals baseball that I've seen since I've been, covering it. And it basically goes back to the mid 1980s, but continuously since 1989. The Cardinals are in a situation where they have no obligations contractually beyond the end of the season. They are not committed to anything beyond the end of the season. Now, people will say, well, what about all the young players? Well, true. But the point is, the Cardinals, when the young players get to salary arbitration and they move ahead in salary arbitration, the Cardinals don't have to offer them arbitration. They don't have to bring them back. And the same applies to even the younger players who aren't arbitration eligible. The Cardinals aren't committed to any of them. They can make a choice on a year-by-year basis whether to bring them back, and those guys don't make that much money anyway. But the Cardinals have literally no contract obligations, guaranteed contract obligations through the end of after the end of 2026. It is a blank slate. It's amazing. They've got the third youngest roster in the majors as of now, average. They only have one player left who was part of the 2021 team, which was the first year Arenado was here. That's Lars Nootbaar. And the Cardinals have only 4 players who have been who have more than 4 years of major league service time. So this really is a blank slate, because there's no contractual obligations or entanglements. There's no messes to clean up, because Chaim Bloom has already cleaned up all the messes that were here when he took over. And this is kind of I would imagine for a lot of people, the Cardinals, like including the DeWitts, this has got to be kind of a liberating thing to know, like, hey, we're like starting over and all of the messes are cleaned up. And now we have to just start to fill in the blanks. And Chaim Bloom's going to be able to do that. And I think it's pretty cool myself.
Yeah, and Bernie, that average age is likely to go down because Brendan Donovan, JoJo Romero are actually a couple of the older, I say that in air quotes, older guys on the team. And if they get traded, that's just going to be – now they're going to bring in some sort of veteran outfielder, right-handed hitter at some point in time, some way, some fashion. Like Chaim talks about that way too often for it not to happen. But the point being is the guys that they still could potentially move on from are on the upper end of that young average.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And I think, right now, in terms of people that are on the active roster, the Cardinals have a payroll, $64 million or so, but that's a little misleading because that doesn't take into account all the young guys that they'll be giving contracts to, the Mason Winns and the Victor Scotts and so on and so forth. But imagine this situation, though, where in the past, because the Cardinals, frankly, were stuck with bad contracts of their own making, if they wanted to do this or if they wanted to do that, or were they thinking about this? Oftentimes the answer was, boy, we really can't do that because we already have a guy at that position. And I know he's not playing well, but, we have to pay him guaranteed for another 2 or 3 years. So we're sort of trapped. And then, so right on down the line, they would have all these log jams. They would decide they would make personnel decisions based on whether they owed a guy money or not. In other words, and I think there was a point in time with Bill DeWitt where if a guy was under contract, he was under contract. He wouldn't. It wasn't a thing. Well, let's just eat the money and move on. That just didn't happen. It happened a little bit. They would like Johnny Peralta. They sent him packing with like maybe a half season left on his contract. But that's why what's happened now is so incredibly different because they did eat a lot of money, $9 million to make these 3 deals happen. But the thing that's interesting about that, they still saved $59 million because they were going to owe, if they did nothing with Gray and Contreras and Arenado, if they just let them play their contracts out here, they would have paid those guys $118.5 million. Well, they ate the money, which came to $59 million. So basically, the Cardinals saved almost 50% of what they would have owed to them. So that's why I laughed when I heard a couple people talking about, well, I just don't understand how you can, trade Nolan Arenado to the Diamondbacks and help them win, but yet you're paying him all but $11 million. Like, why would you do that? Well, because you're rebuilding. That's why the Diamondbacks aren't a rebuilding team, and you're still saving money anyway. So I don't know, Matt. I don't know if I'm a little impatient. I don't know whether I'm unreasonable, but I continue to be just astonished that people don't understand by now what a rebuild is and how it works.
Yeah, and keep watching because it's going to keep going on here for a while, and it's going to be it's going to punch you in the face here pretty good. Successful organizations get their own guys that are part of their core and lock them in. And I think Mason Wynn is probably part of that. I think we can assume that J.J. Weatherhold is part of that group. And more often we're seeing teams go out there and sign guys to contract extensions, buying out the arbitration years and getting a year or two of their free agency on the other side. Am I putting the cart in front of the horse, or is that maybe something that should be on the list right now for Chaim Bloom of actually going and talking to some of these guys who you view as core players moving forward and actually looking at some of those long-term type deals?
Well, maybe, but I wouldn't rush into anything because, there's still all of these guys, even though you like them, there's still questions about them. And you can afford to take another year to see if they take a step forward or not. And by the way, that applies to Mason Wynn, who we all love, but he's excellent defensively. I think there's a lot more offensive ability there. I think he's going to have to show he can do a better job of hitting in the big leagues and running the bases. This is no shot at you, believe me, but I read some of the blogs there's a lot of great blogs about Cardinals baseball. I mean, people do a great job, but it's like every other day there's these breathless things written about, oh, now you got to extend this guy. Oh, they got to extend that guy. Now it's time to extend Burley, extend Wynn, extend Donovan, it's just like, My gosh, did we not learn anything at all from the previous regime and getting bogged down by contracts that backfired? There's just no rush to do that, the way I see it. There will be a time and a place to do that. But what is the rush? You still have time to evaluate these guys.
I wouldn't be angry if they did it, but I'm also not of the it's not like burning a fire on my backside that they need to go extend these guys. They've got plenty of time. And bluntly, I think Hein Bloom's got some more important things to work on here in the near term as well. Right. Bernie, we always love our conversations. Before we get you out of here, can you share with us about Saliga?
You got it, brother. Always love talking with you. Saliga Heating and Cooling, the same family as Saliga's 4 generations have owned this business since 1927. I always repeat this, but I love that. Sometimes I say, I don't even have to, convince people they should call Saliga Heating and Cooling. Let that number stick out to you. I mean, how great do you have to be as a continuously owned family business for 100 years in St. Louis, Missouri? How great do you have to be to still be going strong 100 years after you first opened? And we have plenty of experience with that in the Miklas home because we've been a Saliga family for 18 years. Dan Saliga has done a great job as the 4th generation owner operator. And they set the standard for their honesty, integrity, their professionalism, their knowledge when they come into their home, your home. They're very, very classy. Never going to try to hustle you, twist your arm, try to talk you into something, try to talk you up into buying a repair job or selecting a repair job that's going to be the most expensive. In our experience, they always find a way to save us money, and they start with that. Well, what can we do to solve the problem at least expensive way? Their integrity is beyond reproach, and they're a pleasure to deal with, and their response time is great, and you don't worry anything at all about Saliga Heating and Cooling. So I heartily recommend them based on our 18 years of doing business with them. And it's a St. Louis family business, and we need to support local family businesses. So if you want to find out more, including about the Priority Club, it's a maintenance plan. It's going to save you money by extending the life of your current equipment. Just go to SaligaHeatingandCooling.com. You'll see the phone number. That's SaligaHeatingandCooling.com. Thank you.
The Bernie Miklas Report on KMOX is sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin comfort dealer.
Straight Talk presents The Math of More. Here's how it works. When you say yes to more with Straight Talk, you're left with more for all the other good stuff. So getting an unlimited plan starting at just $25 a month equals more savings for your family's weekend adventures. And with a network covered by Verizon, you can share more from wherever you go. It's simple math, really. More equals more with Straight Talk. Available at straighttalk.com and Walmart. Taxes and fees apply. The $25 plan requires a compatible unlocked device and a new line of service. Additional terms apply.
Well, good morning, kiddo. I love that you're home from college. I've missed you.
Still taking your Nature-Made vitamins?
Every day. A multivitamin and a probiotic. You better be taking yours.
Still looking out for me, Mom.
I'll never stop.
Made to care for you every day. Nature-Made, the #1 pharmacist-recommended vitamin and supplement brand. Find us in the vitamin aisle, based on a survey of pharmacists who recommend branded vitamins and supplements.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. One question I'm always asked is, how did you become the largest injury firm in the world with over 1,000 attorneys and $25 billion in verdicts and settlements? One way was our financial strength. Medical malpractice is the 3rd leading cause of death in America. To prosecute a typical case costs up to $250,000 in case cost. We advance them all. Product liability cases can have similar costs with an army of lawyers on the other side. Automobile insurance companies have the resources to fight. Guess what? So do we. Many law firms simply may not have the financial firepower to work up your case the way you deserve. And we don't charge by the hour. No recovery, no fee. If you have a question about your case or wish to become a client, go to forthepeople.com on your mobile device or computer. 24/7. It's that easy. Morgan & Morgan. Injured? Dial pound law or visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
Hi, this is Bob Ramsey. Congratulations to KMOX, home of the Billikens, 100 years strong as the voice of St. Louis.
Indeed, we are the home of the Billikens, and we've got Billikens basketball for you coming up this evening as they are in action, and we are going to be able to bring that for you coming up in just a little while. Matchup against Fordham tonight. That's going to be a 7 o'clock tip-off, or maybe just after 7 o'clock, and then we are going to get underway with coverage at our coverage will get underway at 6:45 with Bob Ramsey and Earl Austin Jr. This just got posted not that long ago over at The Athletic. Evan Drellich wrote it. He's really good. He was on the Gas House Gang yesterday. He gave a little bit of an update on the TV situation and where that's going for Major League Baseball teams. As I'm sure you know, the Cardinals, along with a bunch of other teams in baseball, had ended their contracts with what is FanDuel Sports Network and their parent company, Main Street Sports. I don't need to go back through all the background on that, but there was a rights payment that was missed to the Cardinals. There had been speculation that you could see a scenario play out where the network stops to exist even before the current basketball and hockey seasons, just a lot going on. So this network, as it did before, because it felt like the network was on its final and last legs last year, they are trying to find a way to extend their life again. And also, another piece of background, the last time this happened, the Cardinals, along with most other teams in baseball, took a pretty significant cut to stay on the regional sports network. For the Cardinals, it was reported it was about a 25% cut in their annual rights fee. So when this last thing happened where all the teams canceled the contracts, I think a lot of people, even myself, at the moment assumed that's the end of the Cardinals on FanDuel Sports Network and that they are going to go the MLB media route, which is what most teams that leave FanDuel have done. Well, it was reported at the time that the FanDuel people, Main Street, would be giving follow-up offers to the teams to try to entice them to stay. And evidently that has happened. I read, and you should be subscribed to The Athletic. It's awesome if you've got the financial ability to do so. FanDuel, Main Street Sports, has gone back to the various teams that they were broadcasting with that are now basically broadcasting free agents, including the Cardinals. And they are seeking 3-year deals with all those teams. The 3-year deals would be contingent upon Main Street Sports finding a buyer in a short amount of time. They had reportedly been talking with DAZN about possibly buying them. At one point, there was a rumor about Fubo being interested in them. I didn't totally buy that report. The DAZN report seemed to have some merit to it, but also that was a deal that seemingly was dying. Main Street is proposing a modified rights fee model where basically there would be a revenue share. Now, that doesn't so much apply to the Cardinals because the Cardinals have already made the decision, and this was reported by Derek Gould in the Post-Dispatch, that no matter what, whether they're back on FanDuel or whether they go their own way with MLB, that they are going to that they're going to be doing all of their in-house sales. So I don't know what that would look like for this, but basically they're saying that there's going to be some sort of revenue sharing component. That may not apply to the Cardinals situation. It's just, I guess the thing I'm rooting for, I would like all the teams to kind of come together, and I know people can say collusion or whatever, but I would like the 9 teams to all make the same decision together. And there's also, the report also indicates that Main Street has proposed a situation where the rights fees are going to be delayed a few quarters down the line. So they basically don't have the money right now. I'm not trying to root against anybody at this moment, but as I read through this story from Evan, I don't totally understand why you would jump back in with them. I just don't know. Deadly says, if I'm FanDuel, I'm not paying the Cardinals jack squat with the rebuild. The Cardinals are still one of the most highly ranked television broadcasts out there. In fact, the Cardinals are the single most valuable team that they still have available to talk to. Cardinals haven't been winning a lot, but a whole lot of people watch those games, and that's all that really matters. All right, that's it for the show today. We've got Countdown to Opening Day tomorrow. We'll have Greg Amsinger on the show. We'll talk to you then here on KMOX.
Time now for today's Spotlight on Health Trends, sponsored by